Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is Shokunin, founder and CEO of DNS. DNS, for those who might not know, is the Tezos-powered next-generation music, video, and art social creator platform, bringing users together with their favorite artists and their work in new and powerful ways. The DNS team is currently ramping up toward the release of DNS's new social application, something we're all very much looking forward to exploring. On today's stream, we'll be giving away 25 Tez to one of our lucky viewers. If you'd like that lucky viewer to be you, keep an ear out for a keyword later on during the stream. Then comment with the keyword below this video where it's posted on the at Tezos Commons account on X. Hi, Show. How are things in San Francisco?
Good morning. It's lovely. Nice and sunny.
Fabulous. To get the ball rolling, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your personal journey into the exciting world of Tezos development?
Sure. So I guess for the longest time, past lifetime, I used to make video games. Made a lot of mobile games. Basically, I think I shipped more than 30 as a PM or exec, basically in that world. So come from a very consumer background and work on delight, on fun, on surprising, a lot this kind of like polish. Gaming, you usually see it as like the most competitive space in the consumer space, where it's like very like the bar is really high in terms of quality, but technology also, because things have to run really good and fast, 60 FPS, all this kind of stuff. Used to work a lot in the R&D space of games, so like how do you push the bleeding edge a little bit further? And you can connect those dots with getting into Web3 and crypto and all that. So 2016, I started working on IPFS related products. I worked on the first consumer app on IPFS, which was a decentralized Dropbox. So like the vision was like, what if Dropbox, but for the entire planet and every file ever, like a world hard drive? And it worked at 2 kilobytes per second because IPFS is very slow. Especially at the time, but it was a cool way to start into the space. And you fast forward a little bit. I worked for Republic, for example, crypto, which is a well-known crowdfunding platform. I had helped them with their token creation and generally just ran the crypto team for a little bit. And eventually we got into Tezos, kind of like looking at I want to say the NFT space, but it was more about like being curious about what's out there that's not EVM that's interesting, and the happy accident of kind of like a really cool art community that we saw thrive there that reminded us of like early Ethereum, like 2017 kind of lives. And so we've been building on that since.
Very cool. So I intro DNS a little bit off the top there, but for those who might not be overly familiar just yet, can you tell us a little bit about the vision behind DNS and its place in the Tezos ecosystem?
100%. So we're DNS.xyz is where you go and see on the website, and at DNS on Twitter also. We're pretty happy with the name. So the vision, it's been going on for a while, so I've done crypto since the start, since Bitcoin 2011, I want to say, or something, maybe earlier. And we think that crypto, decentralization, all that, they've become like really hyper financialized and things like that. But that's not how we think of crypto as a team. We think of blockchains as social networks. There's an interesting framework to think about social apps by this guy called Yuri Engerstrom, who was hired way back when at Google to work on their first social network. So way back. And it talks about social objects, which is, when you talk about social network, you have the little graph with the edges and the nodes, you connect them, you have a graph, right? And that's a social network. But you also have people who interact about stuff on a social network. They talk about things like videos on YouTube or, on SoundCloud, it's like the SoundCloud rap or something. And like that's the social object. That's the object of the interaction. We think that blockchains, especially the blocks on blockchains, so the things people do, if I send you 5 Tez, That's a social object.
Mm.
Okay, so it's not just like, oh, it's a log that says you've done a financial transaction. It's actually Shoku sends to 5 Tez, maybe to buy this NFT. And so by nature, if you start thinking of blockchains as social objects, that means that, like, actually, rather than making block explorers, maybe you should make social networks out of them, right? You already know who's connected to whom, you know who's making interactions with whom, etc.
Mm.
And so we wanted to rethink kind of like the way, like, rather than being marketplaces uh, for art, like, what if we made social networks for art and for music? All these cool creators doing stuff like that. And so a little over a year ago, we started working on this social protocol for Tezos, which is basically exactly this idea. It's like, what if we made a social app that works very much like with the bleeding edge tech of Web3, of like, there's no gas, there's
Mm.
no nothing that feels like crypto friction stuff. You just come in, you go to a website, you post stuff, and there's NFTs under the hood, and it works. So the vision has been, let's create something as smooth and simple as Instagram or Twitter, but every post that you make is an NFT. Every image that you post is minted. Everything is something you can buy, and every post is something you can see an object, or and then sell it later.
So you're essentially sharing the content, but on a certain level, you own the content that you're sharing.
That's exactly it.
That's very interesting. So we're going to do a little bit of a live demo later on during the show. But before we do that, can you describe DNS's new social platform and the vision there? I know you just did a little
Of
bit,
course.
but maybe you could explain it further.
Absolutely. So you go on the DNS XYZ, and you get a site that feels like if Instagram and Spotify had a baby, is the best way to describe it. It's basically it's a creator platform, and creators can go and upload their art or their music, and it will feel like uploading an image on Instagram or a post on Twitter, and doing so will make an NFT actually of the item with no gas, etc. We'll get into that in a bit. Um, so these posts are put on your profile, but also on the social timeline, and you can follow other creators. The cool thing is that we have a really, really, really good music and video player, on par with Spotify, on par with YouTube. So when you see a music NFT, for example, it doesn't have to be minted on DNS, could be minted on object or anything on Tezos. Um, you can play the song, you can put it in a playlist, you can keep browsing the website, you can leave comments to the creator, and they get a notification. Um, so it's exactly that mix of like what you would normally do on a marketplace if you were just browsing and looking around, but here it's really aimed at leaving comments to the creator, following them, subscribing their stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So why did you feel like it was important to integrate what you just described, that's more social aspect and the commenting and the interaction, um, in the way you have with this update?
So yeah, it's interesting you worded that way, because we've been around for 3 years now in the Tezos ecosystem, right? We worked previously on like, initially we worked as a identity service, like have a decentralized link tree kind of thing. People liked a lot, and we added music a couple years ago without social, and people liked that a lot. And we were like a top 3 Tezos app for a good while. Um, so why social? Because people haven't done it right, I think, in Web3. And most Web3 apps, I feel, aren't social enough. And I think that's a problem, because when I go online and when you look at the average person online, they spend their day on social apps,
Mm.
right? Like, they like, just, where do humans spend their day? And the answer is TikTok, Twitter, X, Instagram, etc., right? So
100%.
so people spend their day on social apps. They don't spend their day trading on like Webull or something. They don't, or Robinhood or whatever. They don't spend their day on eBay trying to do some sort of flip, or, oh, I bought this item at the bottom price, but I'm gonna resell it tomorrow for $2 extra. Like, people don't do that. So by nature, I think Web3 is too financially focused, and that's fine. I mean, there's also a need for it, but it's niche. It's not supposed to be like the core. And so it's like, okay, how do we bring this experience that like people want
Mhm.
using this technology?
Well, I mean, that was the next thing I was going to ask about, like why does blockchain need a social layer? But I mean, you kind of answered it right there. It's really about having that, bringing that UI where most people interact with the digital world. Their sort of their touch point is these social networks, right? That's the key that gets them in the door to all the different things that are going on. And I suppose what you're essentially saying is like, for blockchain, if we can create a similar UI and one that's superior in its own way, then that will give them that touch point, but for blockchain and for Tezos. Am I getting that
That's
right?
exactly, you're absolutely right, but I can expand on that, which is, I feel like a lot of how crypto related products have been built so far has been very, there's a very high bar that says, all right, learn all of this, and then all this awesome stuff will open to you. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, so what do I do? Okay, so first you need a wallet, and then okay, so pick this wallet, maybe use Temple, maybe use Kukai, and so it's like, okay, is it like an actual wallet that you store stuff in it? No, it's just a key. Okay, and make sure you don't lose the key, and if you lose it, it's horrible. Okay, and then put money in some website like an exchange, and then like KYC and give them 5 days, and they will transform it to this other coin that hopefully is like the main layer one on that token, like not some wrapped thing, because that's gonna get complicated. Um, so then you spend your 5 days, you wait, you now have the thing, you put it in your wallet, you can go and start using it, and now you log into the website with the wallet, and and spend your token, and you have gas and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of like super super complicated thing,
Mhm.
where like if I were to paraphrase that, like, oh, you need to log in with your passport and connect with your Wells Fargo to this website, and
Mm.
you better not make it too public, people will steal your money. Like, that's the kind of experience we're talking about here. So there's been a very like crypto centric UX, which is like, either you get it and you're invested in it and you put money in it and effort, and you're in the in crowd, and now you can use this stuff, or you're an idiot. That's basically how things have been built in this space so far. And then we wonder why it doesn't scale. Like, why it's too difficult for the average user to get on board or whatever. And so we're like, okay, that is not how the rest of the world works. Like, no app is built that way. That Spotify that goes connect your Wells Fargo, wait 5 days, maybe we can do like like, no one builds stuff that way. And so we're like, okay, let's completely flip the script here of like, you should just log in with a social app, like, okay, connect with your Twitter, and everything just, that's it. It works. Um, so we spent a lot of time thinking about the UX, and not trying to replicate what's been done of like, oh, we should have a marketplace, we should just do login with blah, but really just try to make it simple. Like, okay, we're competing with Bandcamp here, we're competing with Patreon, we're trying to make it that a creator comes in, puts an image, gets paid, and so
Yeah.
that was really a lot of research.
It's definitely, like, anecdotally, for me early on in my earliest days exploring the space, that was those roadblocks were significant, right? Like the number of times that
Scary.
I got a wallet and then got to the point where I was going to put money in and was like, I don't know about this. And then it
Yeah.
happened over and over. And when I talk to people even now, friends of mine, where they get curious, maybe they hear about something pumping and they want to know how to get in, and then people are still hitting that bottleneck, and
Yeah.
they're just abandoning it, right? So I definitely feel like you're onto something there. I know that you touched on this a little bit, but as I understand it, your social platform will be closely integrated with Tezos NFT marketplace object.com. Can you talk a bit about what that integration will look like in practice once the platform is rolled out?
Sure. So, going back to, we think of blockchains as social networks, right? We think of Tezos as a social network. People have usernames on Tezos, right? You're like
Mm,
stu.tez or something, and so you have a username you own. You have posts that you own already. You've done activity on object, all this stuff, right? And when people think of social networks, there's always this issue of the cold start. Is like, who are going to be the first users? Who's going to make the first content and all this kind of stuff? And it already exists on Tezos. It's wonderful,
mm,
right? It's literally by activity. I think Tezos is the most active NFT kind of like community, and so it'd be really silly not to find ways to use that. And what's really cool about NFTs for me has been this idea of the openness and the interoperability. So like basically, I think a lot of NFT related services, they've been very kind of like, okay, do your thing in our service, mint with us, upload here, buy from us. And it's kind of like the NFT bit is very like local, which and then you can resell on OpenSea or Object or something. We don't really like that. We've been thinking about how do we learn from what's been out there. Like if you look at the history of Tezos, I think one, Hicket Nunk, like the first big NFT marketplace, was when it went offline, it came back up because it was uh, built very open, right? The source was open, everything was put on PFS properly, and there were indexers that let you see all the NFTs on it. Object is built the same way, basically, except it's not open, but the open source. But the point is, you can see all of the activity, you can see all the NFTs, you can see everything, and
mm.
and you can interact with the contract directly also. So everything you do on Object, you can do elsewhere. And so we're thinking like, okay, if people like to put their art and music on Object, it should be really easy to follow these people on DNS, see when they have new releases, play their music, buy their art, leave comments, buy their stuff from Object directly on DNS. I think the work that I've seen from derivative websites like NFT Bikers work, for example, or Hen Radio, that were like kind of like looking at the content on Object or Hen and being like, okay, this is cool. Let's find new ways to consume that. That was very direct inspiration for us.
Okay. And obviously, what you're describing, like gas fees would really complicate things for a social platform like this. So, how have you managed to remove gas from the equation?
Gas fees would be horrible for anything social, and it's interesting because, of course, when you mint an NFT and put it on the marketplace, of course, you expect to pay gas. But if you were to post on Twitter, you wouldn't expect to pay gas, right? We've seen, for example, BitClout and Lens protocol, for example, or Farcaster and stuff like that, create systems that are like kind of like decentralized social platforms, stuff like that. Um, but they've been very kind of like, again, crypto centric. You need to have a wallet, you sign up with your wallet, then you put gas, maybe you have things from a faucet, and then when you mint it spends gas on the thing, blah 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 blah. And it's kind of like, okay, this only works for super hardcore crypto people who are like early adopters. um, so what we worked on is a lazy minting system, um, which makes it that when you create a post, um, it will tell our system, okay, you want to create an NFT of this thing. You're authorizing the creation of the NFT of the thing, but it will only actually do so when somebody buys it, not before.
Okay.
So you saying, hey, I have this image, I put it up there, you guys can follow, like, comment, do everything you want. It's an item. It's an optimistic NFT, if you like, and it's declared on blockchain. It's declared on a layer 2, but is not minted publicly on layer 1 yet. And if somebody buys it, part of those fees will be the gas to mint the NFT. And what's great is on Tezos, it costs nothing.
Okay. So the posting,
Yeah,
there is no gas. There
yeah,
may, but as things move down the sort of the sales funnel, that may change. Is that,
that's
am I
correct.
hearing that right? Okay.
And what's really cool about that is that, it's not like, oh, I've saved 1 cent from minting the NFT or something. That's not the point. Or, oh, it adds up because whenever you make lots of posts, eventually it adds up to $1 or something. That's not the point of this. What's really cool is that you've signed up with your social account. Let's say you've signed up with your Twitter. So you didn't have to do some sort of maybe a spin up a wallet thing. It makes a wallet for you, or you can use your existing wallet, Temple, KuCai, that works too. But you sign up, there was no friction, and now you create a post. You didn't have to KYC. You didn't have to do any sort of like sign up. You didn't have to put dollars down or anything like
Mm.
that. Like all of that's handled, right? So now it's just all right. Start creating, and then if somebody wants to pay you, they will.
Mm.
That's
Interesting.
the real cool thing.
So, emphasis on creator experience throughout DNS's journey. Why do you feel like it's so important to make a platform like yours appealing to creators?
That's a great question. So going back to how crypto has been, I think that um, so much of the offering has been about technology first. So it's been this very kind of like, oh, imagine you can sell this way, you can do like, you can do limited editions, you can do like blah 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 blah. Like it's always been kind of like check out this feature, try it out. And I think that's very tech centric.
Mm.
It's very like solutions first, and then see if people want to adopt it. Um, and I think that's not a very good way of building stuff. So going back to like, why are we even doing this? What are people excited about in Tezos? In the art community, it's been this very kind of like, okay, well, people like, there's a lot of really cool looking art. There's a lot of great music. It's not so much about like, okay, it's people don't get into this community to get rich. Period. Some people have, but like it's the vibes, it's having fun, it's creating the memes, all this kind of stuff,
Mm.
right? And so think back about like why are we doing this. It was kind of like, okay, we need to make better creator tools. We need to make a better way for these people to connect with their fans, with their supporters or collectors and all this kind of stuff, right? So what we're not, even though like we had to do a lot of really heavy technology to make this stuff work, the goal isn't like let's make cool technology or be the first at creating technology. It's been kind of like, how do we make it that musicians, especially the musicians, can make beats really easily, well, really easily, can make beats and then upload them, and NFTs are a great way to do like a sort of like demo tape kind of experience.
Mm.
But for people to listen to the track, and consume it and buy it, that's been actually really not a great experience in the NFT world so far. It's been this thing where like, you put the track and like you go on some NFT marketplace. I'm not going to name names. You go on the marketplace, and it's kind of like, okay, you'll find the song, and it's barely differentiated from like the artwork NFTs. And then maybe there's a play button, or you have to go inside the item, and then
Mm.
there's a play button, and then you play, and there's no playlist, and there's no queue. And then if you want to play the song, you can't navigate away from the page and stuff. So it's like this really constraining experience, right? And the same with the art. Like artwork always looks very, it's just a thing in the shop. Like it feels like putting Mona Lisa in Walmart. Like it's this really weirdly constrained thing where like, no, we're looking at art.
Mm.
Like not everybody wants to buy this. In fact, by nature, there's supposed to be like 5 people buy this thing because
Yeah.
it's limited. So like most people want to be able to look at it, and there's no good way to look at these things. So that's what we were focused on.
Okay. So, speaking of that creator experience, what types of media will this platform support?
We do posts, as in kind of like tweets and like kind of size like small microblog posts. We do images, video, music. I think that covers basically
Okay.
everything. But like, so the way we've built this is this very kind of like flexible way of adding new content. So for example, we've prototyped doing shorts and reels, kind of like stories and TikTok kind of content. We totally support stuff like that in theory. It's just that we want to make it that we can add either new apps or new ways of creating content that go into that system.
Interesting.
So for now, we're starting with the basics of like social
Mm.
plus music.
Okay. This is all great stuff so far. I'm excited to see a demo of what you've been working on. But
Sure.
before we get into all of that, are you ready for the world famous TezTalks lightning round?
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Just before we do that, I'd like to
Yeah.
announce today's keyword for the 25 Tez we're giving away today. Today's keyword is exclamation point DNS. Enter the keyword exclamation point DNS below this video on X, and Nightbot will randomly select today's winner, who will announce in the comments below this video as well. Okay, now show it is lightning round time. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Sure. It's born ready. Let's go.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Simpsons or Family Guy?
Simpsons.
Movies or video games?
Video games. All day, every day.
Is
You
this
do not
real
see
life?
these, like
Is this real life, or are we in a simulation?
what is the difference? I know. That's my answer. Yes.
True or false? Money buys happiness.
False.
Name one thing you absolutely want to do before you die.
I don't know. Make creators happier.
Good answer. The last place you traveled was?
Portugal.
Ooh, nice. In 5 words or less, how would your best friend describe you?
Oh boy. Too many dad jokes.
Very nice. And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Put on my hat, put on some earphones, go and walk and think about
Nice.
stuff.
Thank you. Those were excellent answers. This concludes the TezTalks lightning round. Let's get into that demo. If you want to bring that
Sure
up and
thing.
share your
Let me
screen.
see how to go about that. Yeah. Clonk. Okay. Mute that. Share screen. Window. This one. All right. Do you see my screen?
I do.
Wonderful. Is this a good side or is this better?
Can I see the other one again? Either is fine. Whatever you like.
All right. So I just logged in here. It's funny because it put me through the account creation. And I wanted to do that for the demo. It's totally fine. So I just logged into DNS. This is our live internal beta, and we have, I think, 20 people helping with the beta at the moment, giving feedback, etc. And we are just about to add more users later today, actually.
Cool.
So what you're seeing here is my social timeline.
So this is the front page.
This is the home.
Okay.
This is the feed, and I can see, for example, the recent posts that people have made. So Libertez has made this post, right? He's put this image up, and it's a nice little taco NFT, basically, and I can comment on that post. Nice Mexican hat. And there you go. I can react to stuff. Right. I can do all the interactions I would expect on the social platform. I can follow him. I can go back, etc. You'll notice everything's really fast. Right? You haven't seen loadings, you haven't seen things stall, hang, anything like that. Right? So these things are like, just we've put so much attention, we take so much pride in our ability to do like really refined designs. And so like it's this kind of like, we want to make things really slick. We have keyboard navigation. So here's a good example of a post that's just a post. Right? It's just text.
Yeah.
So posts can be just text, they can be images, they can be a mix of both, they can be like video or like whatever. There's a lot of testing. and so what's cool about this is you can buy posts, right? You can put them for sale. You can collect them, and that's the same action as collecting them on an NFT marketplace, right? I don't have Tez on the wallet, so like this, but this is on testnet, so maybe go through. I don't remember if I have stuff. No, I don't have money. Fine. Um, you can save the NFTs to your library, which is like you would on Spotify,
Okay.
and which means that
Once
then
you've
you
bought
can
them.
no even before,
Okay.
and you can like put them in a playlist that you'd like. Okay, so well, that's a bit of a bug, but okay. So you can save it to your playlist, and then like it will be something that you can find later, and play that playlist, for example.
Very cool.
And you'll see like you'll be able to like browse to like the music and videos here and play the playlist, etc. Obviously, it's still trying to buy the thing, but I didn't have them. It's still private beta. Um, but so it looks and feels like a social platform, and it feels really smooth and just like well designed. And that was the important bit. It's like it doesn't. We don't want it to feel like a crypto service. We want it to feel like a nice, slick social platform that can do media. And you can follow people, you can react, you can comment.
Okay.
Right? You can leave reactions to people who have already left reactions, etc., etc. Now, what's cool about this is that you can. So I've made no posts or anything. Maybe it's better if I go someone who has. Right, I can go to a person's timeline, I can see their posts, I can follow them, and then they'll show up in the feed. All right, this is like a for you feed at the moment. That's why I see other people and their
Yeah.
stuff also. Um, let's talk about the creating posts. So creating posts is very, like you saw, like very social platform like.
Yeah.
So this is what our minting flow looks like. We're very, very, very proud of that because normally when you mint an NFT, it doesn't look like this. Right. Usually it's this big convoluted list of like lots of fields and everything, royalties, whatever, all this kind of stuff. It's this like very convoluted system. We wanted to be able to just kind of like, okay, you got type some text. And I'm gonna disable comments, allow collecting 9 editions. The price is gonna be 1 Tez. Or it could be free. Let's make it free. Right. And now, all right, some confetti. I've created my post. And
There it is.
there you go.
And that's an NFT.
That's an NFT. It will show up on object. You can put it for sale on object if you want. People can buy here, etc., etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the idea is everything you do on DNS, you actually own it, right? If we go down, you still have your post. If you don't like us, somebody else could make something like DNS and take all of these posts and make them visible, or they could do another thing. They could make an art gallery out of it, right? And that's
Yeah.
the point is this is the NFT. We've made it that NFTs are no longer just this kind of like, okay, here's a JPEG, but it's this kind of like more like, okay, it's content,
Yeah.
right? And so it's completely interoperable with object.
I guess it's interesting in terms of, as if you're a person who's posting on social a lot, every once in a while you have that one post that kind of goes viral and people really like it. And I guess there's some interesting value to be gleaned
Yeah.
if you've done that. It's gone viral without you expecting it to, and but you essentially own it at that point.
And the cool thing, so recently, at Art Basel, there was the whole test poll meme that
Yes.
happened.
Yes.
And so this could have been a really cool thing to be like the creator. And then people come in and they'll just, collect the thing for free and be in there. And then you could also see all the posts that are replies to it and related to it.
For
Right? Have a
sure.
hashtag of all those posts and then be like, oh, okay. And then you just follow that. Right. So all this activity could have happened on Tezos as opposed to happening on Twitter. And then people's related content could be there. That's kind of like what we're trying to achieve here.
Very interesting. So if we can get the share screen down, we can jump back in and talk some more. It looks really nice, by the way.
Thank you.
It seems like aesthetically,
Sorry.
you've transitioned away from a UI that looks like a minting platform and moved, as you said, toward one that looks a lot more like what we're used to seeing in places like Twitter and Instagram. Was that purely an aesthetic choice, or was it one that was made with functionality and user experience in mind?
Yeah, it's very much, very much the latter. We see ourselves as a team of craftsmen, of people who care about delight, about the experience, and how to make the thing simpler.
Hmm.
Um, this is why we spend so much time like making our own wallet login, our lazy minting system, our layer 2 and layer 3 kind of thing, so that everything is fast, right? We're like, okay, like if I want to play music, it needs to play right away. If I want to see some art, it needs to load right away. If I want to create a post, it needs to happen right away without me having gas. So the UX aspect of it is not about kind of like, oh, it'd be great if it looked really cool. It's really about like the experience of the human on the other end of the computer, just having a simpler time with
Well,
this.
100%. And if we really take a step back and look at the concept of a blockchain powered social platform, the real key to the kingdom is that it has to offer a substantially better experience than what's already available from the sort of social media giants in order to attract users at scale and become successful. Um, do you feel like you've been able to do that here?
I think so. Yeah. The feedback on the beta has been really good. Um, I'd say, I mean, it's very clear that it looks pretty and it loads fast. But what's very nice is that when people use it, they're like, "Oh, I see what you're going for.
Mm,
Like, you own everything. You every post you make, you own, and you can do whatever you want with them." Right? Like people go and see like, oh, you've collected this from this guy, and oh, you have that. Like you're building a little collection of everything. So, you can imagine yourself like 3 years ahead now, where you have like thousands of like songs and videos and art and things, and that can go look at your stuff and be like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
mm,
In a way that I don't think you can on social platforms right now. You can do this on Bandcamp. You can do this on SoundCloud, where I can go and be like, "Oh, you're into this and that," but like on social, I can't go on your Twitter and be like, "These are the creators you're into. This is the kind of content you consume." Like
yeah,
that's vanished.
yeah.
And so we're trying to go for like, you actually own this stuff. This is actually meaningful,
It's a
and
it's a
it's
it's
really
a
come
very
across.
interesting wrinkle for sure. Um, so as you mentioned earlier, like we've seen social platforms emerge in the blockchain space before, um, but none of them have really managed to make a splash thus
Yeah.
far. Um, is the key differentiator here, as you say, is it the ownership, or are there other things that make the DNS social platform different than what we've seen in the space so far?
Well, it's more like why does it exist in the first place? In the case of BitClout, it exists to take money from VCs and sound really cool, but it wasn't designed in a way that I think was like, um, had a really good raison d'être kind of thing. It was purely technology for technology's sake. I'd say the same about maybe Lens and other stuff like that, where it's kind of like, I'm sure it's well intentioned. There's
Mm,
no quite. It's not like this cynical anything, but it's also just technology. It's kind of like, oh, we're designing a protocol. It's like, all right, who cares about protocols? Who gets up in the morning and be like, I wish I had more protocols in my life? That people don't care, right? Like it's so like we were looking at like, okay, there's a lot of music in this space, and it's really cool, and people don't hear it, and it's the same 5 people on Twitter Spaces every day that hear it. And these guys have fans. They have people who are excited, and they're on Twitter, and they're like, oh, cool new track, but it's like really hard to get to.
mm,
So like, how do we get to that? And I think these other things, Farcaster, Lens, all that, like they haven't cracked that. Like the activity from artists in the space already exists. You don't have to make them go to your system and be like, make posts on my thing. Also, there's a music player maybe that's like, okay, and you'll get some discovery that way. It
mm.
should work with the efforts you're already doing. If you're already posting an object, it should work with that. And if you already have content, it should import that. So is this very kind of like, how do we put the creator's experience at the core, but remove the bits that are scary for the non-crypto people?
Mhm. And
So
to that end, you as a, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is creators will be able to create work on the Tezos blockchain without actually owning any Tez here.
that's correct.
Um, can you tell us about how that process will work? I think my other question was why your team felt like it should be a priority, but I think you've already covered that. But how does that work? That somebody who doesn't own any Tez, isn't involved in the ecosystem, can go ahead and start creating.
Yeah. So you saw in the demo how I click create and
Mm-hmm.
I was able to make a post. Uh, you also saw at some point I tried to buy something that worked because I didn't have Tez in that wallet. Like
Yeah.
it just span up a wallet when I logged in. There's no Tez in there. There's literally zeros. There's no money for gas or anything, right? And so what we've made is that lazy minting system.
Right.
Um, so I should really maybe expand on the technology we've done on this front, like on the whole thing.
Yeah. Please. Please.
So the first thing that we made is kind of like you make a post and it lazy mints it. So it says, okay, we're gonna make an NFT or like a blueprint for an NFT of my post that I just made. So I did the Hello TezTalks, for example, and um, it tells our contract that I give the authorization to make an NFT of this post in the future. So I didn't have to spend gas. All I did was a signature. And we do signatures automatically if it's done with the DNS wallet. But if you log in with your Temple or Kuka, you say okay, and then they'll make the thing. Um, so at that point, you've told the contract like make the NFT for me, but I'm not paying gas for that.
Mm.
So when the person wants to buy the NFT, they can spend the gas on the item. That gas will be sent to the contract. It will issue the NFT at that point and create it. Since it's Tezos, it'll cost like a fraction of nothing, to mint the NFT at that point. But that's what the lazy minting does. So I can create posts. There will be NFTs if people decide to buy these items. And for me, it costs nothing. The other cool thing is that so we've made a layer 2 and layer 3. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that we've made our own blockchain on the side, whatever kind of thing, but it does mean that we've made our own rollup
Mm.
for content. So what does that mean? What's a rollup? It's basically a way of having a log of everything that's happened and making that available publicly, like you would on blockchain, but faster, right? Because Tezos does blocks every 10 seconds or so, right? And so if we were to do things every time there's a block and mint every time there's a block, one is it have implications on like paying gas for everything, but two is it be limited by that 10 seconds window.
Mm.
Couldn't go faster. This is a problem actually, because if you look at, for example, what Lens has done, Lens Protocol, but also the other guys, they try to do everything on chain, which means that every time I make a post or I like something or I leave a comment, I have to wait for those 10 seconds
Mm.
and then I have to pay gas for it, which I mean, doesn't work great. Because I'm sure you've scrolled Twitter and done more than one action per 10
Of
seconds.
course, and presumably, if that's happening at scale, that would put a lot of pressure.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. Especially, yeah, it's one per user. Like it doesn't work. And so we made a layer 2 where all of these posts that we just made, lazy maintain and all that, we already like right away say, okay, it happened. Like we accept it and we just put that in our GraphQL. We make it available to see basically in our API. Like we have an indexer and we can say like, okay, these posts happen. So they happen right away. You don't have to wait. And then post fact on layer 1, if a person decides to buy, then it will use the layer 1, but it doesn't have to. That's not the source of truth, if you like. That's just when we want to do purchases. And that works great for posts and everything. But what we don't want to do is make an NFT of every single like and comment, for example. because we did initially, and then we realized like, okay, it's getting a bit silly of like, Stu like this image NFT. All right, what does this mean? I'm not gonna collect that. Like, it doesn't make sense as a UX.
Well, maybe if it was someone famous who liked it. I don't know.
Yeah, fair. Then you screenshot the thing NFT that day.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
or and also like you could just go on the item and see it happen, and it's fine. Like it's
Okay.
so we're like, okay, like actually, okay, so layer one is really good for saying Stu bought this item with real money.
Yeah.
Layer two is really good at you've made this item, you didn't spend gas, it still happened, and it's faster, and we're not bottlenecked by payments
Yeah.
and the block speed. But then likes and comments need to go even faster, and they don't really matter, but they still need to be open. So layer three. And so what's interesting about that? So what does that mean? It means that you can go on any item, you can click like, comment, whatever, and it doesn't really matter that this is on blockchain right away. What we're trying to do is basically so what we're doing here is we collect all the likes and comments that happen, and every, I think, 10 or 15 minutes, we have a big list of the changes, and we put down IPFS, and we put down our contract and say, here's the change log of what happened. So this data is still public,
Yeah.
still decentralized, it's still an IPFS. You can still recreate the entire network from all of it, but it's like it's layer three. It's a bit slower to make it public,
Yeah.
but it's available.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean the sort of the technical side of it is a rabbit hole that we could go way down if we wanted to. Unfortunately, we are limited for time here.
Yeah.
What's next for Shokunin and DNS? Do you have any other exciting announcements or roll-ups in the works?
Yeah, so we're opening up the beta now. We've fixed all of the important bugs basically the past couple weeks, and with the scale of technology we've really achieved here, we're just happy that nothing blew up. Like things, it works. It's magical. Like it's not supposed to. It's like usually when people make stuff in this space, it's kind of like it's a website, you can buy the JPEG, and like that's it, And so we've done like it's been so ambitious, and it's been working. So now we're opening up the beta, and so if people want to come to our Discord, it's discord.gg/free to play, or just come to us on @DNS on Twitter, and we'll hook you up. So as we open that up to the Tezos community, and getting the first creators, etc., post there, we're going to be working on our next big feature, which is going to be basically like Patreon-like subscriptions.
Okay.
So not just selling content like people do with NFTs, but also subscribing to creators, so you can get perks and stuff like that.
Very
Basically,
cool.
the vision is if you can be doing social posts as you would do on the social platform, buy and sell like you would do when you're promoting from the social posts, you like buy and sell, but now subscribe to the creator. We think that would be a really cool loop where like now you just hang out, you're like, hey, I like Lawrence Fuller, here's X per month, and there's art for me, and and I can have perks from that.
Very
That's basically
interesting.
what we're going to be working on.
Cool. As I said, we've plumb run out of time here, so I'm gonna have to leave it there. Before we close off, I'd like to remind our viewers that we're giving away 25 Tez today. To enter, just type the keyword !DNS in the comments below this video on X. For those who miss out today, remind you there are awesome giveaways to be found frequently here on TezTalks Live, so keep tuning in. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks, and we'd love to hear from you. Show, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to
Thank
speak to
you.
the folks building out cool platforms like this here in the Tezos ecosystem and keeping Tezos at the forefront of the Web3 revolution. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we sign off here?
No, thanks for doing this and all the support from the Tezos community. Especially, I mean, when I see the people, like just the people in the Tezos community have been awesome and helping. Then the group called the Tezos community, but also of the artists in the space and Tezos Commons and the blog. It's just been so cool to see so much help. We could build a system like this outside of the Tezos ecosystem. Like the other chains don't have that. So we're very grateful for that.
We always love hearing stuff like that. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on the TezTalks live stream. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Shokunin, founder and CEO of DNS. Now let's go get social.